Hello, and welcome to the Wayfaring Panda. I'm Annette. Today I'm participating in a YouTube pop called Iron Crafter, put on by Tara from the Paper Snob. So each month she gives us a challenge of some type of product to use. So this month's challenge is punches. So I'm starting off using the Creative Memories Border Maker system, and I'm using the cartridge. The cartridge is the black thing that you see, and it's the Picket fence one. So first of all, I'm just using some red cardstock, and you use the little gray plastic thing to line it up, and then you fold it down, and then you use your cartridge to cut out, just like you would a regular paper punch. These little grooves are where you put your cartridge, so that way you can line it all up, and then you put your cartridge in this, I guess it's the punch part, because that has the handle where you punch. And then you just go down it, and then you can feel when it goes into the grooves where you punch at. Now this particular time, some of that paper didn't come off all the way, so I don't know if I didn't have it quite lined up, but that's easy to solve. I just took my scissors and trimmed that off. Some of the cartridges do like this one, where it just makes a border on the side of the paper, and some cut out a separate piece. But I do want this one separate, so I just use my paper trimmer to trim it off. I want to apologize for the video because as I was punching that border, the camera must have gotten shaken a little bit and moved. Now I'm switching to using more traditional paper punches, so the first one I'm using may have been the first type of hole punch. It certainly was the first one I've ever used, is these old-fashioned circle punches, and I'm just cutting out some scraps of red cardstock, and those will be cranberries on my layout. My final punch that I'm using is this cloud punch, and I'm using it to cut out some white cardstock. Most of my paper punches I got in the early 2000s because die cutting machines were not that prevalent yet and probably more expensive, and of course I couldn't afford one, so I used paper punches. And I also got a book that gave you ideas for using paper punches, and I didn't want to get too many specialty ones, but one of the things they showed as an idea was using the cloud punch as popcorn. So I'm going to use it to make a garland of popcorn and cranberries. So that was not my original idea. Now, basically, I got a lot of like hearts and circle punches that you can make into different shapes of your choosing. And maybe sometime I'll do that because I still have all my punches. To add a little more detail and dimension to my popcorn, I'm just going around the bottom of all the popcorn pieces with a Copic marker, and it's kind of an off-white color that I'm using, which is E0000. Now, if you wanted to, you could use a light yellow, and then maybe it looked like buttery popcorn. One of the things I like about this border punch is that it allows you to thread ribbon through it. So I have some cream-colored ribbon that I thread through this border, and then I just glue down the bottoms. I wanted to let you know I switched back to my glass mat because that wood I had on my table is actually, I don't know, vinyl thing that I use for taking photos. It's a photo backdrop, so I didn't want to get glue on it. I was trying something different because I know when I use this glass mat, there's always a glare from my overhead lights. I used some round, like, ones that, I don't know, construction people use. My dad used them when he was a mechanic, so I just got daylight bulbs and put in them. I did try to put parchment paper over them to kind of diffuse them, but I don't think it really works, especially with this glass mat. So I'm trying to find an economical way that I can like these videos but not get a glare. The paper that I'm using for my background and also that strip of plaid paper all comes from the same paper collection, which is called Cookies for Kringle, and it was from Fancy Pants Designs. And it looks like that was put out in 2022, so it's an older paper. I used my Nuvo Deluxe glue to glue down the border that I made, as well as that strip of plaid paper. I made this scrapbook page back in June when I was doing a Disney sketch-a-thon, so the sketch came from that, and it showed using all these different pieces of paper. So I've got some paper from an old Christmas pack I had of 6x6 paper, and so this is a good way to use up some of that smaller pieces of paper that you might have. I'm using a lot of products from different companies, so don't feel like you always have to use all of the same products from one line of paper, or let alone one company. Just look and see what you have that kind of goes together. In this case, I was looking for more of the traditional colors as well as more traditional prints because I'm doing photos of the American adventure. I mounted these photos on some red cardstock, and these are photos from when my grandma, my mom, and dad actually came down to my house when I lived in Florida to visit, and when we spent a day at Epcot. And so the first picture is of my grandma, and the other one is of the American adventure inside, seeing the Voices of Liberty, or at that time they probably called themselves the Dickens Carolers since it was Christmas time, and then the Christmas tree outside of the American adventure. The Mickey head with the American flag is something I made last year. I made a bunch of those with different countries for our sketchathon last year that someone else designed, and I just cut them out on my brother's Scan and Cut. Anyway, I figured that would go perfect with these photos. And then also that little seal behind it comes from a Tim Holtz Christmas Ephemera pack. The stickers I'm using are really old. They're either from Creative Memories or Mrs. Grossman, and I believe the stickers that Creative Memories used to originally carry, I think in the 1990s, were Miss Grossman's stickers. So in any case, these are really old and I'm just using them up. We have quite a bit of stash of these because I started scrapbooking in the 90s. My aunt sold Creative Memories, so I got a lot of stickers from her. And also, we have found some stashes of stickers and things like that at garage sales. And then I attach my photos with some mounting squares, or sometimes they're called photo squares. I picked out some pieces from the Tim Holtz ephemera pack that I might use on the layout, and then I start trying them out to see which ones I like the best. I ended up using the holly instead of the red piece because of the size. Since I'm going to put some other things there, the red piece was too small. And then also I decided to use a sheet of music called Deck the Halls, as well as the bells, to go with the music idea because of the Voices of Liberty. And of course I decided that the wreath went really well with Deck the Halls. I'm also adding some memorabilia from Disney World, and I'm not sure if they really went with this particular trip, but since this is my last page of this era, I thought I'd go ahead and put them in there, since I don't know what time we actually use these anyway. Now, this is my last photos, and I had already done my album from when I lived in Florida, and for some reason these didn't make it into there, as well as some others. They were all kind of Christmas photos that I found, so I think maybe I was planning on putting them in my Christmas album. But since this album, which is my 1980s and 90s photos of Disney World when I went there before I worked at Disney World, I thought I'd just put those in there since that album wasn't full anyway. Now the one ticket I just put here because I did sometimes have them use cast member tickets, but this looks like one that was purchased because obviously I didn't always have enough free tickets to go around every time that they came. And then the other one that has the red, that is a coupon tag from whenever we had our cast member Christmases. Originally, the first year I was there, my sister and I went to the Magic Kingdom one evening because they closed the Magic Kingdom early a couple evenings in the off time in December, and then they would have the cast member Christmases then. They had it run in a couple of days because some people obviously would be working on some of the evenings, including the people at the Magic Kingdom. So that's how they used to do it, and then after that, they just gave us some extra tickets to use for family members, and they gave us this coupon. There must have been a coupon they took off. I can't remember how that worked. But this told us what our discounts were, so we could take it to a restaurant in the park for 50% off, and then one to another restaurant like one of the resorts and get 50% off for a meal. I think it was up to 4 guests. And then also we could choose one day to go shopping wherever we wanted and get 50% off. If I knew my parents were going to be coming down before the holidays, I would always save that ticket for when they came down so we could go out and have a really nice meal and go shopping together. Now I'm going to make a garland with those pieces I cut out with the paper punches. So first of all, I'm drawing some lines to look like it's the string that the garland is going to be on. And then I start gluing every other space, a cranberry, the red circles, and the popcorn, which are the clouds. I didn't really like the thinness of the line that the marker was making. I started off with a 0.3 and then I switched to a 0.5 but it did look a little sloppy, and then I did kind of go over even the one with the 0.5 because I didn't think it was thick enough to really see. And even though it is a little bit kind of messed up, it's all right because when I glue down the cranberries and the popcorn, you can't see kind of where I've messed it up. As I mentioned earlier, this is part of a YouTube hop called Iron Crafter, and there is a playlist, so I'll put a link to it at the end of the video as well as in the description below. Please hop along and support all the other creators. I'm sure you'll get a lot of great ideas on how to use punches, and maybe quite a variety of punches. I'll also put a list of all the products that I'm using in the description below. Some of these will be affiliate links. They don't cost you anything extra to use, but I do get a small commission from any sales that the links generate, and that does help support my channel. Then I add some of my bow stickers to the garland. As a final embellishment, I add some gold glitter pops of color to my layout. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like. And if you're not already a subscriber, I'd really appreciate if you can subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.